My name's Kirsten and welcome to Face the Cage, where we aim to create a deeper understanding of individuals living with illness and disease. Today I'm going to talk about my experience living with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is a connective tissue disorder. Connective tissue is found all over your body, but is very prevalent in your ligaments and tendons, which is why most people living with Ehlers-Danlos will have pain in their joints, but will also have issues everywhere else in their body. Ehlers-Danlos has a myriad of comorbidities that go along with it. I don't know what half of them are, and let alone can pronounce them. So I'm just going to sit here, make funny faces, and have them flash up on the screen. Currently, the Ehlers-Danlos Society states that there are 13 subtypes of the disease. All of them allow for normal lifespans except for vascular Ehlers-Danlos, and all of them have had their genetic markers identified except for hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos. The hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos is the one that I live with. I began experiencing symptoms at 11 years old. I was always tired, had some general joint pain, I bruised like a banana, and I had stretch marks at 11. So my parents took me to the doctor. They thought I had a different connective tissue disorder called Marfan's. The doctor confirmed that I did not have that, and she wasn't interested in doing any further investigation after that. So those symptoms became my everyday reality, and eventually I stopped complaining about them because it became my normal. It wasn't until I was 16 that I experienced my first subluxation. A subluxation is a partial dislocation of a joint. The pain from that episode lasted more than a few days, so I went to the doctor and they diagnosed me with a sprain or a strain or something. They put me in a sling for a month. I didn't know at the time, but this was the exact wrong thing to do, because for people with Ehlers-Danlos, moderate exercise helps stabilize the joints. And my shoulder wasn't getting any mobilization. So I didn't feel better after that subluxation for a very long time. At this time, I was also having a really hard time keeping up with everyone around me. I was a dancer, and I was dancing the same amount of hours as everyone else was, but it seemed like I was 5 times more tired and that I wasn't progressing as quickly as everyone else was. Fast forwarding, I went to college, dropped out, joined the military, and 2 years into my 6-year enlistment, I began getting sick repeatedly with things bothering my eyes. I had something that resembled a cold repeatedly, or maybe allergies. And I had an issue where I was hungry every 3.5 hours, and if I didn't get food fast enough, I was down and out for the count for the rest of the day. I would get visual disturbances, I would get dizzy, I couldn't drive, I'd get a headache. It was miserable. And so I went to the doctor, and what they were most concerned with was my hand and feet tremors and my generalized weakness, because according to them, I shouldn't have been experiencing these things until much later in life. They ended up sending me to the endocrinologist, the rheumatologist, the allergist. I went to the ER many times, and nobody could find anything substantially wrong with me. Doctors are doctors for a reason. They're smart, they're well educated, and to have all these people who are smart and well educated tell me that everything that I thought was happening to me wasn't actually happening really threw a wrench in how I perceived my reality. They kept telling me that all of this was in my head, I was imagining it, or this was stress, or what have you. I ended up doubting not just my bodily experience, but everything that I did. It permeated into every aspect of my life. Not that all of what's happening with my body doesn't suck, but being made to believe that you don't know what is real in your experience is one of the worst things. Eventually I was referred to a psychiatrist, and by then I was pretty on board with the notion that I was going crazy, so I was desperate to try anything the psychiatrist suggested. I definitely underestimated how the medications I was prescribed were going to affect me. Some made me feel like a zombie, others made me inexplicably angry, and some made me cry in the middle of work for no apparent reason. Eventually, he ended up putting me on something called Cymbalta. This medication can also be used to treat pain. And it wasn't until I was taking that for a while did I realize a reduction in pain that I didn't even know that I was experiencing, because it had become my normal. So that gave me a little piece of the puzzle that I had not been able to convey to the doctors, because I didn't know that I was experiencing as much pain as I was. Crazily enough, around the same time I began commiserating with one of my friends, Tessa, about our frustrations with military medicine. Through these conversations, we also figured out that we were having many of the same symptoms and were receiving many of the same treatments. Because of her, I finally started to believe that maybe not all of my symptoms were just in my head. Maybe I wasn't so crazy. And so I started pursuing a diagnosis again, separate from psychiatry. Tessa had had a really good experience with a geneticist that was able to diagnose her with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And she recommended that I request to be sent there as well. So I did. And as soon as I got in the geneticist's office, she suspected that I had Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. The geneticist proceeded to test me against the Baton score. It asks you to bend your body in certain ways. I scored a 9 out of 9, which is the highest you can score on it, which told her that I have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. We didn't exactly know which subtype I had. She expected the hypermobile type, but we did genetic mapping just to make sure that there was no other subtype that I might have also. These days in the life of Kirsten, there are good parts. I have far less muscle pain, and that's because I'm not working out nearly as often or nearly as intense. The flip side of that is that I have more joint pain because my muscles can't hold my joints in place. Why am I working out less then? It's because I'm suffering with a whole bunch of other comorbidities and other acute illnesses regularly. Yay! There's many things that I experience that I'm not sure if I should attribute to Ehlers-Danlos, or if they're just some other universal curse that I am repeating. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure all of this out. I suspect that my journey with Ehlers-Danlos and figuring out how to manage my symptoms is going to last quite a while. There are days when I can run around the block, and there are days where my loved ones have to help me to the toilet because I am so weak. And then when I get to the toilet, I spend 5 to 10 minutes peeing. because of pelvic floor dysfunction. Woo! I've been out of the military for 10 months, and it's hard to believe that I went from being a part of a physically exclusive organization to being a part-time wheelchair user and virtually unemployable due to the cascading nature and unpredictability of my symptoms. My life is not the only one that has been impacted by my symptoms. My relationships with family, friends, and my high-energy doggo have also been under strain due to the conditions and circumstances my body creates. Unfortunately, many living with hEDS have similar cascading, unpredictable, and difficult experiences. Although I would consider this a longer video, it by no means encompasses all of my experiences with this illness, nor will it encompass all of the symptoms covered by everyone living with hEDS. If you want to learn more about Ehlers-Danlos, I would recommend looking into other YouTubers. One of my favorites is Izzy Kornblau, or looking at the Ehlers-Danlos Society website. If you or somebody that you know has a similar experience, or if you would just like to help me raise awareness, please feel free to share this video. I intend to put more out soon as my body allows. I look forward to seeing your thoughts and your questions in the comment section. Thank you.